Mr. The Prequels presents the prequels. Jar Jar is the key to this whole thing. And Jar Jar is the new Han. And Han Solo is the original Jar Jar. This is objectively a fact. Just look at all the movies side by side and you will see it. Han Solo! Yeah, he's the key to all of this in the original trilogy. They needed somebody to be funny in the original trilogy. And they got it with Han. And you'll see this especially in Return of the Jedi, where he just was there for comic relief. He wasn't really the key to this whole thing, actually. But he was the key to this whole thing being funny. And so that's why they needed Han in episode 6, is to be funny. And he had all of the best lines and all of that kind of stuff. And anyone that has ever seen Han Solo in any version of Star Wars will see somewhat of a comedically straightforward, loyal friend. But nonetheless, he's always got the look, this look, that look, this one. That when he did American Graffiti. This one. Yeah. Han Solo. Yeah, he's the key to all of this thing being funny. And that's why they put him in there. And then when you look at the prequel trilogy, the prequel trilogy is, of course, the story, the beginning of this story. Every story has a beginning. And this is the beginning of this one. And Jar Jar is the key to all of this. He's the key to this whole thing. Not only is he the funniest character we've ever seen, which also Han Solo was, by the way, after the droids, C-3PO and R2-D2. But as the creator said, the audience hated the droids at first. Oh, too silly. But it worked. And over time, they are now beloved. Beloved, as is Han Solo. Han Solo. Yeah, Han Solo. He's the key to all of this. Being funny. So they needed a funny character. And they had a serious character in Han Solo. Yeah, they had a funny character in waiting, but he was serious. And if you remember at the beginning, when you first encounter Han Solo. Han Solo! Yeah, Han Solo. When you first encounter Han, he is hiding in the shadows with his first mate, Chewbacca. And then, of course, another beloved character, Chewbacca, who they also turned into a clown, a literal dog. Yeah, don't even get me started on that. You know it, and I know it. They turned Chewbacca into a literal dog. And they did the same with Finn, who never really got to show what he was about. But they turned him into a clown and a dog right from the beginning, right out of the gate. And they turned Chewbacca into a literal dog. Yeah, what's he doing? What's his purpose? He's there, he just hangs around. But Han Solo is always known for his one-liners and that look, this one. And of course he's funny, and that's what we needed. funniest. He's the key to all of this, being funny. And so they put Han Solo in there just to be funny. And then along comes the prequel trilogy where we meet Jar Jar Binks, who is also on the margins, hiding in the shadows, so to speak, although in plain sight. He doesn't even know what he's doing there. And here, by the will of the Force, he is now part of the mythos. Yeah, and that's what the creator said. Same as Han Solo. And so these two Jedi Knight characters, Jedi Knights, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, young Obi-Wan Kenobi, and of course, the wise and powerful Jedi teacher. He's the master in this situation. That's Qui-Gon Jinn. And these two Jedi Knights are looking for transportation. They seek a transport, a way to reach the other side of the planet, because they need to warn the Naboo. They need to deliver a very important message. And as you recall, in the original trilogy, it was old Ben Kenobi, old Obi-Wan Kenobi by this point, and then young Luke Skywalker. And they were on this journey now to meet, after hearing a message from Princess Leia, Organa, to meet Princess Leia's father on Alderaan. And so they had to go meet Senator, well, as we know in the prequels, Bail Organa. And, of course, masterfully played by Jimmy Smits. And so, and then, of course, written and directed by George Lucas, producer Rick McCallum, executive producer George Lucas, and all-time epic masterpiece. Yeah, Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. And so, along comes Jar Jar. Now, he's the new Han, as these two Jedi seek him out. And in the original trilogy, these two travelers were seeking out Han, but they didn't know it. They found him. And it was the will of the Force. Now, I do say this, I do believe this. It was the will of the Force. And so, Han Solo, otherwise known as Jar Jar Binks, is the new Han. And of course, Han is the original Jar Jar. And look at this now. Han starts out as a somewhat sought-after character, even though they don't know who he is. They do know they seek a pilot, and they find this pilot, and he is piloting the fastest ship in the galaxy. And then his first mate there, Chewbacca, who, I will say this again, they turned into a literal dog. Talk about, man, we need Harrison Ford up here to do this. Yeah. So anyways, Han is the original Jar Jar, and he's only there for laughs. And Jar Jar is there for laughs, but he's also the key to this whole thing. He's the key to all of this. And he's there to move the story along and give exposition, and ask questions that the audience might be wondering about. And then he'll exposit on this, and he will answer his own questions, sometimes with another question. But it's very innocent in the sense of, it's not naive, but there's no agenda behind it, no ulterior motive to manipulate. He just wants to know. He just is. He's only asking. He's one of the most honest, and no, just one of the most honest characters ever we've ever seen in any movies, period, let alone Star Wars. And so, yeah, if you want to know what's going on in the world, just watch the prequels. Yeah, and if you have trouble with the opening title crawl, or you don't know, oh, it's too long, I can't read it! Too much politics! Meanwhile, Jedi are cutting down these Trade Federation droids like butter, blasting their way through blast doors, stowing aboard separate ships so they can get down to the planet Naboo, meeting up with the Gungan, the boss, council of bosses at the Gungan city, being chased by underwater sea monsters, lightsaber duels. Yeah, too much politics, space battles, pod racing, and not to mention Jar Jar Binks, one of the funniest characters we've ever seen, ever in the history of movies, period. And that's it. That's all the time we have for today, dear friends. And until we meet again, I will leave you with these wise and powerful words spoken by the wise and powerful Jedi, Qui-gon Jinn. As you recall, he spoke these words to Anakin Skywalker while they were on the planet of Coruscant, getting ready to go to fly to Naboo. At which time Jar Jar Binks said, "We should going home," or something like that. Look, I'm not even going to try to say it. All right, that's all I'm going to say. But he said it, this is what he said. He said, "Oh, by the way, this is written by George Lucas, producer Rick McCallum, executive producer George Lucas, an all-time epic masterpiece." And so, until we meet again, dear friends, I will leave you with these wise and powerful words spoken by the wise and powerful Jedi, Qui-Gon Jinn. Remember, your focus determines your reality. And I'll add this as well. Remember when Qui-Gon spoke these words to Anakin, he said, before the pod race, he said, "Don't think, feel, use your instincts," and so on and so forth. And that's it. That's all the time we have for today. And until we meet again, dear friends, I will leave you with these wise and powerful words. Remember, your focus determines your reality. And may the Force be with us.